Surveys are still a primary way where people go and get data. There's only one little problem with it. Very few people do it well. And these are the questions that drive you coming up with the survey. But what a survey fundamentally starts out with is you have a hypothesis. The hypothesis can be, for example, why do people pick one coffee shop over another coffee shop? And so your theory could be, oh, it's because of location. It could be that the coffee's better because they have more variety. And so the question becomes, what questions do I have to ask in order to confirm that I'm actually right about this or that I'm wrong? And so when you define your hypothesis, you have to think through the data that you actually need. And you want to pre-test your questionnaire ahead of time. Don't go out there with the survey and send it out to 100 people and then you find out you got a typo or something like that. Trust me on this one, 90% of the students so far who have done surveys have always had mistakes in the first round. Yeah, and they come back and thank me later on that they pre-tested it first before they actually sent it out there. The example I give in this lecture is that I believe that people want an AM cola drink because they want an alternative for caffeine. As it turns out, there could be another hypothesis for it. It could be that people are tired of overpaying for coffee and tea. When you design your surveys, don't guide the respondent, meaning don't you think or create emotion like dead puppies or similar to. Keep your language simple and clear and pace it, meaning start out with simple questions, then lead into longer questions, then pull back into simpler questions. And the reason why is if you tire out the people who are taking your survey, you're not going to get honest answers. People get confused, they get tired, and what they start doing is just, I don't care, and just write down anything. And that doesn't help you. Don't ask double-barrel questions like, do you like price and taste? And so how do I measure the results of a survey? Well, there's categorical, where you basically pick the answers, yes, no, or multiple choice. Ordinal, you have to put it in order from least to most or worst to best. Be very, very careful with that. When it comes to ordinals, people can't follow that many. You have to keep the list short. For example, one survey they gave me, the ordinal was 1 to 16. So the way Dr. Cho did it is, okay, what did I like best, what I like least? So that's 1, that's 16. And it went back and forth that way. And it was like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't know that answer was there. Well, that would have been 2. Oh, crap, I'm not redoing this whole thing. And you're very familiar probably with the Likert scale. That's the most standard approach where you have 5 to 7 points. There are different ways you can do surveys, whether it's in person or whether it's electronically. But at some point, it's a good idea to ask people about their surveys, especially your preview ones. Now, here's an example of an actual survey from McDonald's. When you go through the McDonald's drive-thru, occasionally on your receipt it says that if you're willing to take a survey, you get a free quarter pounder. Yeah, I'm there. But in looking at the way they constructed the survey, what are they concerned with? And these are the factors that they're concerned with regarding their stores. And so what they do is they start out with your basic data. They confirm that where you bought it from. Are you going through drive-through or carry-out? Your satisfaction. Then they had 6 questions asking about the cleanliness, the speaker quality, clarity. Basically, they're asking you about your experience. And then they mix up other issues that they just happen to be interested in, like their menu variety, and then they end up with comments. Then they go back to shorter questions once they've done the longer ones, and you can read the rest of that. So in terms of survey techniques, again, you can use focus groups. There's something called stratified sampling, and that's you divide the population to samples and test each one. Mall sampling, you just randomly ask people. Snowball and network effects is that you ask their friends to reach out to their friends and so on and so forth. You're trying to get, basically it's like viral sampling. Judgment sampling is that you use your own judgment to pick, okay, this is worthwhile, so I want to see how these people are responding, and I'm going to throw these knuckleheads out because they're not telling me anything. Inconvenient sampling is you just reach out to the person who's closest to you. In terms of how many people I should sample, in general, the maximum you should go for is 200. And the reason why is, in general, a 200 sample will tell you mostly how a population is going to act. If you get 400, the next 200 are pretty much going to look like the first 200. So all you're going to do is reinforce certain biases. And that's why you want to keep it to about that. In terms of validating your data, here are some of the tests that you can use statistically. I'm not going to expect you to know it. I'm just listing this out for your own reference. And that's the thing about a lot of these things in the slides. I don't expect you to remember everything. That's part of the reason why I keep my quizzes open book, open notes. But what these slides are good for is someday if you have a question and it's like, oh, how do you validate that? Oh, let's go back to Dr. Cho's lecture. So wrapping up, there's statistical software out there like Jump in Excel. Surveys can use to enhance product use tests. One of the most difficult things about surveys is coming up with features that you like. Customers want everything and they don't want to pay for it. And those are the lessons you learn from getting information.